Article 1, Studying Computer Game Learning Experience Through Eye Tracking, lead Arthur Alkin. This took a problem-solving video game, Sierra's Return of the Incredible Machine Contraptions, and they tracked the eye movements in an exit survey of all the participants. The study found that participants focused most of their attention, which is going to be our main focus, they focused most of their attention on the problem-solving aspect. So the game was engaging enough to take their attention to the point of the game. We need to make a game that grabs the attention of the user. If the game is engaging enough, it should show through the eye tracking and make the user able to encode the information. Regarding the exit survey, most of the participants did not have a particular strategy. They'd use trial and error. Trial and error is an effective way to do language learning in an immersion setting. A particular study would be an excellent usability. So eye tracking, we could use an eye tracking system to find out if the game is going to meet its intended purpose. So it would make an excellent usability test. I have one graph from the paper that shows a comparison of participant fixation scores on areas of interest. It shows the mean of fixation on the menu produces smaller values than the fixation on the contraption. So they are focusing more on the contraption, which is important. In Article 2, do badges increase user activity? A field experiment on the effects of gamification, the lead author Hamari. This was an implementation of a badge system on an existing retail website called Shared Tribes. The study compared 1 year prior and 1 year after the badges were included on the website. And the badges did increase in overall engagement in the site in question. However, it was not as influential as the developers thought it would be. Now, we're going to look at social aspects of badges, namely social comparison. So in this particular site, you were able to gather friends, and with your friends, you could look at what badges that they had and compare it to the badges that you had, which would increase you would use the site more because you were comparing yourself to others. And it all sort of showed social validation and cohesion with social norms. So people were more likely to engage in the site because they wanted to keep up with their friends. They wanted to be the same badges. They wanted to have the same actions as their friends. We're also going to look at goal setting. Badges allow you to have clear and defined goals. You can do something, cannot do something, but there is something there that shows that you completed the goal at hand, which could help with a flow state, with a challenging but doable goal. This could be very interesting for a language game. Now, games like Duolingo do have badges, and you can accumulate badges to show your progress and things that you've learned, which could increase overall user satisfaction and overall motivation. I did include a picture of the badges from Share Tribe, which they're very simple. They don't have to be complex. They'll be effective. 3, student attitudes towards the use of games to promote learning in the large classroom setting. Lead author Grady. This is looking at gaming and gamification in the learning experience. It was a survey of how students react to the game in the education setting. Satisfaction with games is not as high as we would think. They are more attracted to lecture, which could be a sign of social norm. When they do play games, there's also a little frustration with working memory. To hold the rules, hold the information you need is a little more difficult when you have an overloaded working memory. And this could lead to a positive cognitive overload, which would limit the storage of information to the long-term memory, which would decrease learning. The use of a game as a supplemental in classroom learning is an interesting one. These language learning games are sold as a way to learn a language by yourself, but there are language classes you might not be able to learn from these games. So games like Stone, which is not extremely gamified, but it is a gamification of language learning that might not be as effective without the classroom experience. But we're going to emphasize user preference. There's going to be differences about what type of games people like and so forth. And our survey on the next slide is going to show the games and all the lectures. That means that 5.7% believe that lectures are better than games. Article 4, Medical Student Attitudes Toward Video Games and Related to New Media Technologies in Medical Education, lead author Cron. This is going to emphasize a disconnection between those providing the medical education and millennials who are receiving the education. We're looking here at cognitive overload with the lecture style that is common, and though this is a problem, it is believed that the solely gaming model would likely fail. But this paper did look at gender differences as well. So men were more likely to like strategy, role-playing, and first-person shooter games, where women preferred puzzles, simulation, and adventure games, which we've seen before in this class. Now, this might be interesting for a person to be able to pick the type of games that they engage in, forego gaming options altogether, or they could pick the type of games to sort of supplement the information. Article 5, Vocabulary Learning in Massively Multiplayer Online Games, Context and Action Before Words, lead author Zhang. This is a foreign language vocabulary acquisition paper in the game World of Warcraft, where a Japanese native speaker who was a novice player played with an English native speaker who was an advanced player, and they were trying to teach the native Japanese speaker English words while going through the game. A strategy that did come up where through asking questions of the person, and it is an immersion style learning strategy. Well, demographic differences and perceived benefits from gamification. The lead author here is Quivisto. And then we're looking at the different benefits for user demographics through gamification. This was done in a fitness tracking service called Fitocracy. We'll look here at gender differences in the social aspects. Women were more likely to use the gamification because they liked the social aspect of it. Older users found it harder to use, and there was this pattern where motivation declined over time, and the social engagement also declined over time. We need to look at targeting the needs of different demographics, age, and gender. And we need to look at the overall effectiveness of gamification for things like language learning compared to fitness.